Came here to say who won it from the jump. Came here to say get exactly what you want. Came here to say that you don't really want it with us. Yeah, we live, you know. We came here to say that you don't really want it with us. Yeah, the sports show.
Yerrrr. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of the Yerrrr Sports Show, episode, I believe, 177. Hopefully, I got that right. I'm your host, Big Baby. Yep, yeah. I'm your host, Big Baby, aka AR Jones, aka the Wise Brother, aka the inaugural We Are Wrestling Tag Team Champion, aka the Soul of R&B. And to my right,
we have a birth certificate somewhere. Like, do we have documentation? Because you realize we are in a space of time right now in this world where if you're not who you say you are on your ID, it can cause a lot of problems.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But I wear a lot of stuff with my name on it, so
Okay, I'm just saying. No, I don't need to get a phone call. The next thing I know, you want a flight to Nicaragua.
Hey, listen, you won't gotta worry about that. My passport is expired. I'm renewing it, so they can't send me. They can't send me nowhere. So, but to my right, we have the owner and proprietor of said We Are Wrestling, the voice of a generation, the host of the Dog Days of Baseball podcast, coming soon to ears and eyes near you, the voice of generation, Pete Rosado.
I cannot wait for another season of being able to rip on everything Shohei Ohtani, because of course he had to start the season a week and a half early. Everybody else is in spring training. Shohei Ohtani and the Dodgers screws up my fantasy baseball schedule, because now I can't even do fantasy baseball drafts because they technically started the season. So the season started already. It's ridiculous. I hate the Japanese series. I love it, but let's just start everything at the same time. Why are we having 2 games 2 weeks before the season starts? Everybody else starting next week.
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And wait, baseball doesn't let y'all do late drafts?
No, because because now technically you have players who wouldn't be able to be eligible to be drafted because they've already technically started the season. So it creates a bias because now you got like Shohei Ohtani would already have he already has 1 home run.
Right.
Imanaga and the pitchers in LA already have started a game and stuff. They already have stats under their belt. So once official game stats become real, the draft season is. I mean, you could probably do like a mid-season draft. I don't know if those things exist in Major League Baseball. NBA, they used to have like these the All-Star break. You could have a second half of the season draft. I don't think that exists in baseball. But yeah, now with this whole Tokyo series, this Japan series, when they start a week and a half, 2 weeks before the rest of the baseball teams that are still in spring training. And it's weird because technically the Dodgers and the Cubs played 2 games in Japan, then came back to the States and will play a week of spring training exhibition games. And
so you guys have so much damn time. They all loose already.
Right. But it's like you play 2 official games, and then you come back and you play a bunch of exhibition games to then go back to playing official games. Well, everyone's just playing exhibition games. If you want to do this Tokyo series, I think it's a great idea, but do it as the official start of the season where everybody's then starting. So you have your Tokyo series opening day, maybe the day before the American opening day, but everything stays on the same track because it just throws everything off.
I think it does too. I think it does everything, throws everything else off as well, just because of the simple fact, just when you play these teams, the Dodgers and the Cubs, they have a week head start of in-game feeling. And no matter what people say about any sport, if you have an advantage and that you're already in somewhat season form at the beginning of the season before the other teams are, you'll have it. You'll have a pretty decent season. Or it could be the reverse, and you're nagging and touching injuries that don't need to, getting the injuries that don't need to be had.
And thankfully, nobody for those teams got hurt in
Mhm.
any type of way. So thankfully all of them are okay. But that could be another thing. Imagine now you're going into this Tokyo series and stuff like this, and somebody, God forbid, gets hurt. Like now, technically, you could have been playing exhibition games, and these guys maybe aren't playing. They maybe aren't doing all of these things, playing at 100% right now, and they could have been fine. But now, all of a sudden, 2 weeks before anybody else starts, you could lose somebody. It's a lot.
It is a lot. It is a lot. But speaking of losing,
Oh
the
boy.
Giants. The Giants. God bless
They haven't lost
those
yet.
boys
They
and
might
girls.
win. They might win. They might. They still
Uh,
might win. There's still a chance. Still a chance.
mm, 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 mm. So they signed Jameis Winston. I don't mind that. I really don't mind that. And they have the third overall pick in the draft. People are saying it should be Shedeur. A lot of people are going against it. People are not going against it for football reasons, though. They're just like they're saying it's football reasons. Let's be real. It's the same thing for Marvin Harrison Jr., where he knows that these players know their worth, right? And they're not going to take any little thing that just comes to them. They know what they put into it, and with your father being a Hall of Famer, you already put on to a lot of the game that the people are spinning. And you're
Right.
not going to be able to get Cam Ward as the Giants. Even I think Cam Ward is, in fact, the better quarterback. I think Shador brings the eyes and the flash back to New York, but will that flash also equal substance? And that will yet to be seen. That would be, I mean, it's yet to be seen because he hasn't been drafted yet. But time only tell it. Again, if he gets drafted. Then the other part of this is the fact that even though we signed Jameis Winston, we're still looking for that veteran presence. And what we have left out there after missing the ball are Sam Darnold, Matthew Stafford, and a couple other quarterbacks. We have Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. What a litany of quarterbacks to choose from. And since DK Metcalf just went to the Steelers and Justin Fields just went to a different team, I'm thinking Russell Wilson may just go back to the Steelers, leaving us with that terrible man, Aaron Rodgers.
That's a bad man.
That's a bad in the worst way. With that being said, Peter, what are your thoughts on I usually wouldn't ask you if you are Matt this, but it is my turn as a Giants fan to eat the crow. So I ask you, what do you think about this quarterback carousel that we're about to be put in, and what do you think we can do?
Well, first off, big ups to Sam Darnold getting
Hmm.
$100 million contract from Seattle Seahawks.
Yep.
We almost saw Aaron Rodgers possibly have a Brett Favre scenario 20 years after the fact, 10 years after the fact, where he would have gone to Minnesota. There was a lot of interest apparently from Minnesota.
Hmm.
They've decided to stick with JJ McCarthy going into next season. Um, but there is rumors that they are going to be looking for a veteran backup for him. Hey, maybe you bring back Kirk Cousins. Maybe you shouldn't let him go in the first place. I don't know. But
Probably shouldn't let him go either. Nope.
right. And again, the Kirk Cousins thing is still out there because
Hmm.
there's no guarantee he's going to stay in Atlanta. And whether or not Atlanta is going to either just get rid of him or trade him away, that's still very much up in the air. Now,
Hmm.
as for the two remaining teams in the Steelers and the Giants and Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers specifically, I've always thought that the better option for Pittsburgh would be to return Russ, simply
Absolutely.
because he knows your system. He was successful there. You know how to coach him. He's worked with Tomlin already. It'd be an easier thing to do. And now you've gotten him help in DK Metcalf on the wide receiving end. So he has somebody to really throw the ball to consistently. Now, of course, you have a wide receiver like DK Metcalf that can be very, very intriguing to an Aaron Rodgers, who now is no longer going to be able to coerce Devontae Adams to come with him, as Devontae Adams has now gone to the Los Angeles Rams to replace
Yep.
Cooper Kupp. Then again, Cooper Kupp going to the Seattle Seahawks, becoming the number one option now for Sam Darnold if Cooper Kupp can stay healthy.
Right.
So the thing is, the Giants want a veteran quarterback because what you don't want to do is bring in a guy from the draft, whether it's a Shedeur Sanders or someone else, and then hinge Brian Dable and Joe Shane's entire careers essentially on this one guy because they
Right.
realize they have 1 year after what the last couple of years have been. And again, I do not put any blame on Brian Dable necessarily. I understand there's a lot of Giants fans that personally are not very happy with Joe Shane, specifically coming out of the Saquon Barkley situation. I personally do not have any ill will towards Joe Shane. I think he made a general manager just decision. I think he made, yes, it was a decision that looks bad when you look at what that player accomplished, not only in the regular season, but then winning the Super Bowl. But when you look at it from the lens of reality, this was not going to be a reality for the New York Giants, even if he had stayed. So,
Absolutely.
Be happy that you were able to do what you did. Because again, even if Joe Shane had traded Saquon Barkley, I still don't think that the fans would have responded in kind to that because they'd be like, well, you didn't get enough. Or, still look at what he went and did. You got rid of him. Why couldn't you just keep him? So it was a no-win situation there. Aaron Rodgers is going to be it's a veteran quarterback that, Dable and Shane could bring in. And, he knows his time is not a lot, and you can get 1 good year, maybe 2 good years out of Aaron Rodgers, depending on if you keep him healthy. Again, the Jets thought they were going to get at least 2 good years out of him. He wasn't healthy for 1. And then he comes into the second year and he kind of doesn't have the greatest year. He didn't have the worst year in the world, but he didn't have the greatest year either. He definitely did not have an Aaron Rodgers type year.
No.
The question you have to ask yourself if you're bringing in Aaron Rodgers is, do we have the offensive line to protect him? That was the number one thing with the Jets last year. They did not have an offensive line to protect Aaron Rodgers. And you saw how vulnerable Aaron Rodgers became the minute he did not have the safety net of that offensive line to block for him. The Giants, I mean, listen, we saw what happened with Daniel Jones. They don't necessarily have a great offensive line. The Pittsburgh Steelers have a better offensive line than the Giants do, which might be more appealing to an Aaron Rodgers. My issue with Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh is, what kind of sway is Aaron Rodgers going to want? Is he going to want a specific type of offense? Is he going to want to kind of do his own thing? Is he going to be coachable to someone as intense as a Mike Tomlin? Is he going to kind of come in and fit the Steeler way? Right? Is he going to do that?
Right.
And if he's not, then it's going to be more of a headache. So for me, and I know the Giants just signed Jameis Winston. I don't think Aaron Rodgers retires. I think Aaron Rodgers possibly does end up back with the Giants. With the Giants, I should say, not back with, but ends up with the Giants, making Jameis Winston your QB2. And Tommy DeVito, once again, the eternal QB3 for the Giants. Now, the one good thing is Jameis Winston did have a pretty good revival a little bit with the Cleveland Browns.
He did. He did.
So maybe
I can't say he didn't.
got something left in the tank. But it does look like all signs point to Aaron Rodgers, if he stays in the NFL this year. All signs seem to point to Aaron Rodgers going to the New York Giants. They have the most money to offer him. They want him. They want the veteran quarterback. They struck out with Stafford. You struck out with Darnold. Now you've got, Russell Wilson out there, which I think if we were talking about Russell Wilson coming off of the Seattle Seahawks, I thought that would have been a perfect grab for the Giants.
It'd have been an amazing grab if we caught him last year.
Not even last year, but I think like when he left Seattle. When he left
Seattle, yes, a couple years ago. If we would have caught him a couple years ago, yeah.
Yeah, imagine if you had gotten Russell Wilson instead of drafting Daniel Jones, and you were able to put Russell Wilson and Saquon Barkley together, I think that would have been an incredible pairing in New York.
And it would have forced them to fix their offensive line a lot quicker.
Right. And I think even if you had, gotten him last year, it would have been an interesting year this year. Maybe that even lets you keep Saquon Barkley, because you're like, well, if we put Russ and Saquon together with Saquon's recent success, maybe, and got Malik Neighbors. Maybe we can do something here.
Yeah.
But yeah, unless Aaron Rodgers retires, I don't
Mhm.
see a way where Aaron Rodgers does not end up just walking right across the street and
Oh,
putting on some giant blue.
no. Oh, we don't want that. We don't want that, and it's at a point where
Do
it,
you want Jameis Winston as your starting quarterback week 1?
I mean, at least he's gonna play.
Well,
Like,
listen, there's no doubt, there's no question
like
about
at least
Aaron Rodgers' health right now.
my thing. Well, there was no questions about Aaron Rodgers' health the year he got signed to the Jets. And game 1, 12 minutes in, he tears his Achilles. Like,
Well, then the Giants could have the same situation. I mean,
right,
with Jameis Winston. God
right.
forbid.
But
Not
it,
calling
God
anything on him.
forbid, God forbid, God forbid for sure. You know that, and you know that man walked with God for real. But like, I don't know. Aaron Rodgers is not a bad quarterback. I just think what makes Aaron Rodgers bad is the fact that if he doesn't have it his way, you can literally see it in his play that he doesn't want to be there. And that's
Right.
exactly what was going on the final year in the Jets. Even after the Jets gave him everything that he asked for, depleted their resources to get Devontae Adams, all of that to end up still at the bottom of the barrel. And then the Jets have to retool and restructure all the way now. Now, don't get me wrong, the Jets still have a lot of young pieces that can work with them. And they'll be fine. I think the Jets overall will be fine in the end. I think they'll be probably better off than the Giants for a little while. But the thing about this Aaron Rodgers to the Giants thing, and the same thing if he goes to the Steelers, it's all about how he decides he wants to use the narrative with him. What narrative does he really want to control? Does he want to be the diva or does he want to be a leader of men?
Right.
If he doesn't want to be a leader of men, it's going to be a long season for the New York Giants, a super long season for the New York Giants.
Now,
Because Aaron Rodgers,
NFL.com has
mhm,
Shedeur Sanders going to the Giants with the
yeah,
third pick.
yeah, a lot of people have him going third to the Giants. I think it would be smart for the Giants to draft for the future. The thing about it is, if they pick up Aaron Rodgers and they also have Jameis Winston, what does that future look like for Shedeur?
Oh, I
Does
think
he?
I think what that does is I think Tommy DeVito loses his job.
Mhm,
I think you carry Shedeur Sanders as your number 3
mhm.
and let Shedeur sit there and learn.
If
James,
I'm about to say if
James,
Aaron Rodgers want to fucking teach, excuse my language, but yeah,
well, not even that, but still, you get a chance to be there on the sidelines. You get to learn by osmosis. You get to be in the meetings. You get to be on the practice squad. You get to do all these things, right?
right.
Aaron Rodgers, if Aaron Rodgers is to go down, to get hurt, something were to happen, you have a veteran quarterback in Jameis Winston
Mhm,
to be your backup,
right.
right? I wouldn't even look to Aaron Rodgers being the person to mentor Shedeur. I would look at it as, okay, you're able to watch Aaron Rodgers work. You're able to see how this offense works. You're able to learn the offense, spend a year learning the offense, learning what we need. And again, it also does help Shedeur. Here's why. Because if for some reason Brian Daboll ends up not being the coach of the Giants next year and they end up changing coaches for the 2026 season, now Shedeur does not have to necessarily Shedeur gets a chance to sit back and watch game speed, watch the NFL, go through the meetings,
Mhm,
understand the digestion of the playbook. And even if he is going to get another playbook next year or something different, he's got those skills in his bag. But you also have a veteran quarterback in Jameis Winston as your number 2, and also as a guy who can help to mentor a Shedeur Sanders. I think that's more of a Jameis Winston job than an Aaron Rodgers job. Also, I don't know if I want Shedeur playing this year, if I'm being honest with you.
Oh, absolutely not. No, 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 no,
Because
no, no.
no, and not even because of skill. While we
Oh, I'm not
don't
talking. I don't think about skill either.
while we
I'm not
don't
thinking about
know
skill either.
Yeah, while we don't know the dates,
Mhm.
like in terms of what week is what and things like this, we do know who the Giants are playing this year. That
Yeah.
much we know. We know that they have Dallas at home and away. They have Philly at home and away, and they have Washington at home and away. Now, they also have games against Green Bay,
Mhm.
Kansas City, Minnesota, San Francisco, and the Chargers at home, and
Mhm.
games against Chicago, Denver, Detroit, the Raiders, the Patriots, and the Saints on the road. If I'm looking at this schedule and I'm looking at the way these teams played last year,
Mhm.
Philly, you're probably not getting a win there. Washington, you'll be lucky if you split. I think Washington sweeps you. Dallas, you should be able to get at least the split.
Mhm.
If not, maybe beat Dallas twice. I don't think you're beating Green Bay. I don't think you're beating
Mhm.
Kansas City. I don't think you're beating Minnesota. I don't think you're beating the Chargers. I don't think you're beating Detroit. And I don't think you're beating Denver either because I really like what I think Bo Nix is going to have a great number 2 season. So then you got what? New Orleans, New England, the Raiders, and the
Mhm.
Chargers. And the Raiders is going to be an extra special game now because that's basically a team being built in Tom Brady's image.
Basically, yep.
So do you
Mhm.
really want Shedeur going through a season where he's going to have to deal with all of this high pressure versus now the 2026 season? Yeah, you still got Dallas, Philly, Washington,
Yeah.
but the rest of the schedule looks like Arizona, Houston, Jacksonville, Indy, San Francisco, Tennessee, Seattle, the Rams, and then a couple to be determined. That's a
Mhm.
much better looking schedule.
I agree. That I agree. That's definitely a much better looking schedule. But as you said from the jump, they have to face the NFC East, their conference foes. I mean, their division foes 6 times, right? Dallas is going to be Dallas. They're going to do whatever. The Eagles, the champions, and the whatever they're going to be called, the Commanders,
Commanders.
because they decide they're going back and forth about being called the Redskins again for whatever reason. But between those are two teams in the NFC that the Giants really don't want to see, especially with a new quarterback, with any quarterback at that. But those two teams, they are going to fight tooth and nail for the NFC East title. The Giants are probably just going to be, they're just going to be people who mess up people's playoff spots really this year. Like they'll get a couple of sneak wins, and if they have a decent season, they have a decent season. But I don't see it. But yes, you're right. I wouldn't put Shedeur in this line of fire yet because if um you know if they have to do a whole culture change, at least Shedeur will be only a year into the NFL and he gets a brand new start completely. He gets to
Right.
build. It gets to be built from the bottom up and not from the bottom. Yeah, from the bottom up and not be you know in the middle of a whole bunch of controversy that doesn't have to do with him. So.
Right, and then at best you get it, and definitely if he has a rough season,
Mhm.
you're not gonna not hear about it from Prime.
Right.
Prime's gonna be running his mouth. It's gonna be
Absolutely.
now it's gonna be the circus of like, oh, Brian Dable don't know how to coach my son, and Joe Shane don't know what he's doing, and things
Yep.
like this. And that's only just gonna fuel all those armchair quarterback Giants fans who ain't never played a game of football in their life and can't even throw a can in the garbage from their couch when they're watching a game. Talk about how they would, they could do a better job of coaching Shedeur, or this and this and this, or Dable's not doing a good job. Half of y'all can't do the job anyway.
Right. And too many out we don't and that's part of the reason, as we said, people don't want Shador because they have to deal with Prime. I love Prime, right? As an organization, as I'm trying to build a culture, I would love to have Prime around, but not in the aspect that Prime will probably be around.
That's LeBron prime. That's my son.
Right.
It's my
That's my
son.
son. That's my son. Shout out
God
to
forbid
you
it's-
too. Yeah, shout out to you as well. On TikTok, getting everybody mad. I got a lot
Listen,
of people saying that they should take our podcast mic away from us. But guess the fuck what? We've been doing this long enough. You're gonna have to come snatch these podcast mics out our hands, by the
listen,
way.
ain't nothing I said wrong. So if there's a bunch of people whose feelings are hurt, hey, come in the chat. Let us know.
You did. But one final topic before we wrap. The New York Knicks start the season really well, and then the Tom Thibodeau stuff has started. The first Tom Thibodeau thing is Mikal Bridges speaking out against the minutes, and Thibodeau saying, "No, that never happened. There was no conversation." Right, but even though the stats does say what Mikal is saying about the starters playing and the bench players not, this is a Tom Thibodeau special. And
Yeah,
then your star player, Jalen Brunson, gets hurt and he's gonna be out for a amount of time. And the
about
Knicks have
2
been,
weeks more. Yeah.
2 weeks, and this is the wrong time to be out. This is the time when playoff seeding gets solidified. In the East, I don't think it'd be too much of a problem. I think the Knicks will be locked into the playoffs because a lot of teams in the East have losing records. Um, but what do you think about the Knicks' current slide, and can they pick it back up again?
Well, listen, I don't wanna count anybody out, right? Because the
Mm-hmm.
Knicks are in third place,
Yep.
44 and 26. They're likely not going to catch the Boston Celtics at number 2. They are 7 games behind the Celtics. But
Or the Cavs.
right, they're definitely not catching the Cavs. But the Pacers are only 3 games behind the Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bucks are only 4 games behind the Knicks. And and again, this is a Bucks team that was out of the playoffs for a while this year. So, and then you've got the Detroit Pistons at 17 and a half games back from the number 1 spot, meaning they're only 5.5 games away from the Knicks. And again, as you said, with Jalen Brunson out for what maybe another week and a half, 2 weeks, and you definitely don't want to rush him back because God forbid if he aggravates that or makes it worse, now you're going to lose him for the playoffs, and that's a larger problem.
Right.
So I do worry about that because again, let's say the chalk wins in the in the play-in, and it ends
Mm-hmm.
up being Atlanta beats Miami and Orlando beats Chicago. So you
Right.
end up having what we have. You end up with a situation where um the Knicks play Orlando, which, okay, pretty decent. But now if the
Mm-hmm.
Knicks slide to 4 and chalk wins, right, the
Mm-hmm.
Knicks now play Atlanta. And
The 4-5,
we
that
are,
4-5 is a nasty, nasty time right there.
well, no, not even that. That's the 4-7.
Well, it would be 4-5 in the playoffs. It wouldn't be 4-7.
Well, no, it'd be 3 and 8 because you have the play in. Because remember, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So 1
So
and
it's
2
one.
get
No, there's no buy. No buy.
no 1 and 2. Wait, well, just one gets the no, nobody. Okay, so it's all right.
No,
So wait.
nobody gets a buy. So it's 1-8. You remember the playing. See, this is
Oh,
why
that's
people
right.
don't think we know what we're talking about.
Well, no, I forget the play in changed all the rules.
Yeah, 1-8. It's
So
still
you got
1-8.
1-8.
2-7. 3-3-6. 4-5.
So okay, so right now you have the Knicks and the Pistons.
Right.
Right
Who
now you
the
have the
Pistons
Knicks.
are playing out their mind right now.
Right. And if the Knicks fall to 4th, it's now the Knicks and Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you definitely do not want Jalen Brunson aggravating an injury or coming back too early. Now,
Right.
the problem is, okay, let's say the Knicks get through the babies, the babies of the East, and they get in there against the Boston and the Clevelands. They're winless against Boston and Cleveland all year.
Absolutely.
Boston beat them in opening night, 132-109. Cleveland
But they
beat them
shot
2
the bevy of threes.
right. Cleveland beat them 2 days later, 110-104.
Mm-hmm.
Then we fast forward a bit. By the way, they did beat Milwaukee early in the season,
Mm-hmm.
116-94. All right, great there. right? Beat Detroit early in the season. But now we fast forward a little bit, lose to Detroit back in December, December 7th. This was shortly before they went on their 9-game winning streak. They lose to Detroit 120-111. Brunson with a double-double, 31 points, still lose, right? You go in and you play you play Milwaukee later on in the year. You blow them out just in January, 140-106. All right, good job there. But then you lose to Detroit the night after. And then you go and you play Boston again, February 8th. You lost 131-104. And then you go play Cleveland February 21st, and you get blown out 142-105. And then you lose to Boston the next night, 118-105. They've got 2 games remaining against Cleveland, 1 game remaining against Boston for the remainder of the season. So you have not beaten the 2 teams that are above you. The more than likely 2 teams, one of those 2 teams you're going to meet in either the Eastern Conference semis or the Eastern Conference finals.
Right.
To the Mikal Bridges situation, first off, I don't want to hear it out of Mikal Bridges because this is a guy who's been an Iron Man for every single team that he's been on, who has played the most minutes for every team that he's been on. So I don't want to hear him moaning and groaning and complaining now. Really no need for that. But he also does have a point. Josh Hart leads the team right now with 37.7 minutes per game played. Mikal Bridges right behind that with 37.6. Then Anunoby, 36.6. Jalen Brunson, 35.4. Karl Anthony Towns, 35. Those are your 5 starters.
Right.
After that, the per minute average drops by 10 minutes. Deuce McBride, who has only started 8 games, but has played in 59 of their 70 games, averages 24.9 minutes a game. Let's round that up to 25.
So he plays 2 quarters.
Right. You play 10 minutes less than the lowest minutes per game starter, which is Karl Anthony Towns at 35, right on a clip. Then Precious Achiuwa is at 20 and a half minutes a game. And then you go down to Mitchell Robinson, who in only 10 games still averaged 16.3 minutes. Cameron Payne, 14.6, right? Landry Shamet, 13.1. So there is a large disparity. A lot of this is due to the fact, let's just be honest, you have no freaking bench. Josh Hart is basically a 6-man playing starter minutes.
Yeah.
So Josh Hart should be your 6th man, but you have him playing starter minutes. Deuce McBride is your 6th man. You basically just have Deuce McBride, Precious Achiuwa, and Jericho Sims when he's healthy, and Mitchell Robinson when he's healthy. That's it. You have 4 players. Robinson is consistently not healthy, and Jericho Sims has been in and out.
Right.
So now you have 2 guys. This is why they had to go and sign PJ Tucker to 10-day contracts. This is why you've had a guy like Ariel Hukporti play 25 games this year, because you don't have a bench. And this was what we spoke about in the beginning of the year, where they swung the Mikal Bridges trade. And then right after that, you swung the Karl Anthony Towns trade. And it's like, my man, who do you have left? You got nobody. You already lost Hartenstein.
Right. Because they basically have to play the starters basically have to play with the bench, but with the bench. It's never going to be a 5-for-5 swap, and that rarely happens. But it's never going to be where
go 8 deep.
Yeah,
they don't have the ability to go 8 deep. And when you're playing against these teams like a Cleveland who can go 8-9 deep,
Boston that can go 12,
right? And then when you get into the Western Conference, you've got teams who can go deep. You've got teams like Oklahoma City, who has also blown you out of the water multiple times, who can go deep. Houston, who can go deep into their bench.
Crazy.
You know, Denver's been good. They haven't been as effective as they've usually been.
Right.
And now you got the Lakers. LeBron's coming back. So he's now going to be rested and healthy for the playoff run.
The Warriors are playing out of their mind right now.
And apparently, somebody left a little bit of Mike's secret stuff sitting in the locker room, and Bronny found it. Because now he all of a sudden turning it on.
Hey, listen. Can't you know what they say? You can't deny the DNA, man.
Tell that to some kids with the last name Jordan.
Right.
And then even some teams that are behind you, right? Say what you want about the Pacers, but the Pacers got Halliburton, Nembhard, Nesmith, Siakam, Miles Turner.
They can go 10. They can go 10 deep on Indiana.
So you've got guys that are behind you that can go deep.
Orlando.
Right. And then you've got guys like, again, the Houston Rockets that got guys that can play, and young guys that, have, miles that they can still run. And while this is a Thibodeau problem where he leans on his guys, it's, to me, if Leon Rose had been smart about this, what Thibodeau likes to do. He likes to lean on a specific set of guys. He likes to play certain guys heavy minutes. Your number one focus should have been building a quality bench. And that wasn't the focus. The focus was, let's get a five-man squad, a death squad. But here's the problem. You also haven't balled anybody out the gym.
No, you haven't. You've had good games from specific players, but as a team, you're not doing what Boston is doing. You're not doing what Cleveland's doing. You're not doing what OKC is doing. And with the trades that you made, I kind of expected that, right? I'm thinking, all right, well, y'all about to start. Y'all have the offense. Y'all are a defensive-based team. Do it. But the way they set up their lineup, I wouldn't have OG and Mikal Bridges starting, because now I'm taking away from the bench. I wouldn't have Hart starting. But this is the problem with the NBA, as me and Randy have spoken about, me and you have spoken about. The lack of development is the reason why you have teams like the Knicks that can only run 5 or 6 people, because they're not developing everybody else. And you're just hoping that they're going to be okay. And this is what happens. You get your biggest stars injured because they're playing all these minutes. But the reason why they're getting injured also is because they're not practicing. Again, whole different conversation, whole different time.
Right. So, and don't get me wrong, the Boston Celtics have a minute problem as well. Jason Tatum averaging 36.6. Jaylen Brown 35.3, and then you've got Derek White at 33.8. Drew Holiday averaging 30.5 minutes. Horford's almost at 30 minutes. Porzingis is below 30, and Peyton Pritchard is below 30. But and then again, Porzingis has only played 35 games. But but they have that balanced scoring there. You look at Oklahoma City, which is interesting with Oklahoma City. There's only 2 players on Oklahoma City that are over 30 minutes a game, and that's SGA and Jalen Williams.
Right.
Chet Holmgren at 27, Aaron Wiggins at 22.6. He's their guy coming off the bench. Hartenstein at 28.3, right? Then you've got Luguentz Dortz right there on the edge at 29.1, and then Cason Wallace at 27.5. But you've got guys on your bench. Alex Caruso averaging 19 minutes off the bench. All right. Jalen Williams averaging 17 minutes off the bench. So you've got guys that are able to give something to the rest of the team. And when you have a team the way that the Knicks have constructed their team, it's very much like somebody pulled out NBA 2K and made all the general manager trades that they wanted to. And the thought was, we're just going to blow everybody out the gym. It's the idea that the Yankees had for a lot of time. We're just going to get all-stars at every position, and we're going to just, offensively destroy everybody. You can't beat us if you can't score 6, 7, 8, 9 runs, right? We're just
Right.
going to hit
Meanwhile,
12
forgetting the
home
fact that some of these stars don't know how to play defense.
right, or you lack the pitching. So now
Mhm.
you're playing from behind. So now this other team is scoring runs, and you have to now score a large amount, or you have to score 8, 9 runs a game just to beat a team. It'd be different if the Knicks were going in scoring 130, 140 a night.
Mhm.
If they were balling out their minds and balling everybody out the gym, and it was a blowout by the end of the second quarter, by the end of the third quarter for everybody, then we won't be sitting here saying this. But you're not balling everybody out the gym, and now you're paying for it when you see Jalen Brunson going down and the way this team offensively is struggling, and you don't have a bench to back it up. And what's going to happen is we're going to get to the playoffs. Bridges is going to be exhausted and breaking down.
Yep.
Brunson might be a little healthier because he's had 2 weeks off. Brunson, Mikal Bridges is breaking down. Josh Hart's breaking down. Karl Anthony Towns is breaking down. And now, once again, we're at a space where Brunson's got to do it all by himself.
Right. And at that point, you're not. This is what Tibbs, and he's had success. Don't get me wrong, but at what point do you coach for the playoffs and not for the regular season?
Yep.
Because anything could happen in the regular season. You just need to be 1 through 6. You don't need to fall into playing. And in the Eastern Conference, at this point, not like it's hard to hold us down to 6th place, right? One of your minor juggernauts got slapped in the face when their star got traded to to uh, to the Warriors, right? You have Atlanta who decides they play good 1 year, decides they play bad the other, right? Detroit is just now learning how to play winning basketball. Orlando is just now learning how to play winning basketball. Milwaukee does whatever they do with Doc Rivers, and that's what it is. The only thing you know for certain is that Boston and right now Cleveland, who I keep calling the Utah Jazz of the East, if you remember them old Utah Jazz teams
Oh,
when
yeah.
where they would be regular season monsters, get to the playoffs, and Donovan Mitchell and the rest of them just forget how to play. Yeah, but those are the two teams you have for certain at the top. Everything else, um, 2 through 16. I mean, 3 through 16 is a toss up. Oh, Washington's going to be at the bottom, and Charlotte doesn't forgets how to play basketball. So you have these teams, these other 14 teams that can all line up and play for a playoff spot. But as what Tom Thibodeau has to do, he has to play for the playoffs, knowing that his team is good enough to make the playoffs versus playing the way you do, playing your stars to play the way you do, and not building up the confidence of your bench so that they can take those that time off the starters. So when they get to the playoffs, it's like boom, we can go balls to the wall, straight into it, and make something shake. But we'll
And
we'll definitely
we've talked about this before in multiple sports, talk
mhm,
about winning the games you're supposed to win and beating the teams
absolutely.
that you're supposed to be beating.
Hmm.
You shouldn't need Jalen Brunson with this team to go into San Antonio and beat San Antonio, but you lose 120 to 105. You
Hmm.
shouldn't need Jalen
Without
Brunson,
Wemby, without
right?
Wemby,
And you still lose 120 to 105, not by a last second shot, not by this. No, you
you
lost.
lost by 15 points.
You shouldn't need Jalen Brunson to go into Charlotte and beat the Charlotte Hornets, but you lose 115 to 98. You lose by 17 points. Your high scorer was OG Anunoby with 25 points.
You lose to Charlotte of all teams.
Okay, so that's two.
Hmm.
Okay, you lost to Golden State, LA,
That's
and
fine.
LA,
Yep.
the 3 game swing. Okay, then you go out and blow out Sacramento, and then you barely beat Portland. and
Right.
I mean barely beat Portland.
Right.
You
Another
know,
one of those teams that's figuring it out. Have Chauncey Billups trying to teach them how to win, and as a team like the Knicks, who have had Tibbs there for a little bit now, they should know how to win those games, as you said, win the games that you're supposed to win. You're not
right? And
supposed
when
to
I'm
lose to
looking at
Portland.
their schedule this year, like those 2 games stick out for me right now because it
Hmm.
just goes to show, like, yo, your number one guy. I don't want to say your star because you got 4 or 5 stars on the team, but your
Hmm.
number one guy is out. You shouldn't need your number one guy to beat these 2 teams. These should be games that your guys should be able to win without Jalen Brunson. But when you look at the losses on their schedule, and I'm going back all the way to the beginning of the season.
Yep.
Boston,
Hmm.
Cleveland, Houston, Atlanta, Indiana,
Hmm.
Chicago, Utah, Dallas, Detroit, Atlanta again, OKC, Chicago, Orlando, OKC again, Detroit again, Minnesota, the Lakers again, Boston
Hmm.
again, Cleveland and Boston again, Golden State, the Lakers again, Clippers, Golden State again, San Antonio and Charlotte. Outside of a couple of games, maybe 4, 5, 6 games on that list that I just mentioned, all of the teams that they have lost to are playoff teams and teams that they will likely have to face in either that second round or those Eastern Conference finals in order to make it to the NBA finals. You have not yet shown that you can beat the teams ahead of you. And that's when everyone was healthy.
Hmm.
So what's going to happen when the playoffs come? But of course,
Absolutely.
it was all Julius Randle's fault, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. It
Right.
was all Julius Randle's fault.
Yeah. Oh man. But that is a wrap for this episode of the Yerrrr Sports Show. Catch us on all social media platforms at the Yerrrr Sports Show. Catch Pete at his social media platforms, excuse me, at We Are Wrestling One and We underscore Wrestling One on Twitter or X or whatever. Yeah. Um, catch me on all social media platforms at G Wisebird, all social media platforms that you can think of, except OnlyFans. We haven't gotten there yet, so
That might be. Listen, don't give Tavia any tea time ideas.
no, that we're giving Tavia T Times ideas. Just as I mentioned, the Queen, yes, she will be back next time we record. With a lot of tea for sure. Matt will be back. From
Matt's
some
currently
lockdown.
busy with some little people right now.
Yeah, Matt exclusively is Matt exclusively is dealing with little people, and then that little fetish of his, he'll get together for
Connoisseur
sure.
of the little person variety.
Connoisseur of the little, yes, he is a little person. Yeah. With little people love little people, so you know that. Anyway, for the Queen Tay, for BK Matt, for the voice of Generation P Rosado, it is your boy Big Baby signing off.
Sleep
Peace.
in peace, Vince.
Yeah.